Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Uh, I am re-recording this video because the last one I ended up watching it myself on YouTube, and I just couldn't personally justify how long it was. So I'm gonna put in a concerted effort to not make this a 55-minute video. But today, for this video, we're going to be talking about blast damage. As it was mentioned in the comments, somebody requested like information on like the status effect. So I'm going to talk about the damage as a whole, as well as answer this person's question. I'm going to pull up the wiki. Blast damage is made from heat and cold. Pretty simple. Its status effect is an accuracy. One proc gives you 30%, and then each subsequent proc gives you 5%, up to 75% inaccuracy on enemies. No railjack counterpart. Blast is in a really awkward position in the current meta, because the current meta is essentially blow enemies up as fast as possible, because death is the ultimate CC. So, how does inaccuracy help you? Short and sweet if you're looking for how to use Blast. Um, Blast should be used right now as no more than a secondary helpful bonus on weapons. There's plenty of weapons that are especially like explosion weapons, like the Brahma that I'm holding. Blast also exists on many glaives. Not the Zorus. Glaive is Slash. There's Blast on the AoE. Let's see. There's a couple that have it. Falcor, I think, is Electricity. No, it has Blast. Halakar is Black. Kestrel is Blast. Orvius has Blast. So this weapon does exist innately. And it's mostly on any sort of a weapon that has um, like a radial attack, like an explosion attached to it. So you do get this weapon or this element passively occasionally. Now the problem with Blast is what it's strong against. I'm gonna pull up its two bonuses that it gets plus 75%. It's triple plus 75% to machinery. So for enemies that are machinery, it ignores 75% of their defense and then boosts its damage by 75% for fossilized. Ignores 50% of the defense and gets boosted by 50%. So there might be some utility here, but let's check out what these are. So machinery is a health class for Grineer. Fossilized is a health class for infested. So when building this, and we're going to use the highest quality um, of animation. So we're going to have health, armor, and shield. Okay. Let's see. Can I do text? No. All right. So your damage has to penetrate through all of these. So blast is going to exist here. Is where your bonuses are. Now the problem with the element, just due to where the bonus is that it is a health class. So it's going to get reduced by shield resistances. If the enemy has it, then it could potentially get reduced by armor as well in more rare enemies. So you're not going to have to deal with shields, really. There are a couple of Grineer units that have shields, and they tend to be a little weaker, with the exception of like some Plains of Eidolon enemies. And ironically, it's the drop ships. So, um, but the thing is that the bonus, a lot of infested bosses, and we can pull it up. A lot of infested bosses like the Hemocyte, the Jordas Golem, the Phantus, Forid. So let's take a look at these guys, because bosses can be helpful, especially when you're doing Steel Path. So, infested sinew. Let's look at what the statistics are. Not that one. Infested sinew is armor. Okay. So infested armor has a reduction to blast. And then the health has a plus to blast. So the problem with this is that if you perform or can't perform any armor shred, this actually hurts you running blast in this situation. Reason being is, even though logically when you look at this, the blast damage should end up being neutral, right? And this is where it becomes like a decent secondary element. Like it's a welcome innate element on a weapon. Because if you come across an enemy that you can armor shred, like this guy would be a little difficult to armor shred. I think you can do it though. Lephanus, Infested Boss, Forid. Not to demean the boss, but who cares? It's super weak to corrosive, so that's gone. But because it's a health class bonus, it's kind of hard to target, right? Like you'll get the bonuses, but because it's being reduced so much by the armor, which is generally when an enemy has armor, that's going to be its scaling defense. That the armor reduction in your damage will reduce your damage so much that the bonus on health isn't going to help you. So generally when we build to either bypass the shields, so we use Toxin, right? Especially against the Corpus that don't have armor. Or we would use something like Slash to bypass. Alright, success. Against Grineer to bypass the armor. So we deal damage directly to the health. And then we use Viral to boost the damage to health. But you really wouldn't want a mod to have a damage type just get reduced by shield and armors and then just deal bonus to health. It gets reduced too much. So generally this is the current meta. This is how people do level cap runs, is they will figure out a way to strip the enemy. And that would be effective with Blast, but the problem is with Blast, the enemies that are weak to this are super rare. So we can consider it a little bit with the enemies. So let's take a look at what enemies these are. And I'm going to go down the list real quick. I'm literally going to load up all of these. For the Grineer, Mech, and the Void Angel. Carabus, this is a small weak unit. Look at what the bases are. This can be kind of annoying, but it's a spawnable enemy. So you're not fighting waves and waves and waves of these guys. Yeah, Grineer Sentinel. So they're just not that common. So you wouldn't want to sacrifice the rest of your build to focus on that one specific enemy. Railjack enemy. If you really wanted to take advantage of this and boost your damage against cutters, because machinery is heat cold, the accompanying second tier element would be corrosive, because you would be able to do Toxin Electric. And this is one of the few places where it could sort of help you base damage wise. It's just not going to calculate in the status effect, but you'll get the base damage boost from it. So maybe you could consider it like a Railjack element, but the status effect won't ever apply, which is fine because there's no such thing as like condition overload, or like you're relying on primed mods, like the primed, I forget what it is, the prime mod that gives you base damage for like your mech guns and like for the Mazatlan, like this guy, primer beat barrel for your arch gun. Even for this, and a damaged CCCD Riven, I'm just gonna do corrosive. It's just a more effective form of damage reduction. Because it'll, even though the status effect, there's no bonus to it, it still reduces armor. So the status effect is useful. But you could also throw on blast. So as corrosive is shredding, blast will get more powerful the less armor the enemy has. And this is going to be sort of the methodology you see talking about this stuff, is that you would need to accompany it and go dual element with corrosive for blast to even be relevant damage wise. But you're still not going to mod so you can specifically proc the status. Eidolon lores, they're weak. You should not be hyper farming Eidolons or Eidolon lores. You should be doing Eidolons. But you shouldn't be focusing your build around killing these if you're in the area where that would be an issue. Again, radiation blast, you would go corrosive blast if you really wanted to equip blast, but I went corrosive heat because heat also gives armor shred and is a scaling dot. Cruise ship, same thing. Corrosive blast will help you do damage, but generally when you're taking these out, you're using frontal artillery. So this is moot. Latcher, super weak. These blow up. Orbital strike drone, kind of a meme. But you wouldn't mod specifically to deal with those. Outrider, railjack, same thing. You couldn't do radiation blast, so you would go corrosive blast. Propaganda drone. Again, you wouldn't really mod specifically for it. Roller. I guess maybe now that the Eximus update has occurred, the Roller Eximus can be kind of annoying. But whatever. They're weak, they blow up. Like, their base stats are super low. So you wouldn't mod specifically to kill rollers, because they're not that common. Regulator, these are whatever. They don't even do damage to you. They just mess with your radar. Sicula, this is what? Underwater Uranus? Aquatic mining and Grenier Sea Lab submersible. Okay, so rare. You wouldn't specifically mod for this. You would go like corrosive, which in this situation, because it's a Grenier unit, ferrite armor is what it's weak to, so you would go corrosive like heat. So cruise ship, railjack, same thing. Railjack, same thing. Tusk Bolkor, gunship, right? Yeah, okay, so this drops off reinforcements and then bugs off. Drops off reinforcements, bugs off, but at least this is a little bit relevant. Because if you kill these as well as the other one, it kills the enemies that are coming in. So maybe you would want to mod a little bit for this, but it would still be better to do corrosive heat. So if you see what I'm getting, like, your damage would get boosted more by shredding the armor than it would be by running blast in most cases, plus having the dot. Tusk Thumper, this is probably one of the few circumstances where a corrosive blast build might be in order. And even then, I think it would generally get outpaced by radiation. And let's see, radiation, so heat electric, so toxin cold. Yeah, okay, so it'd be radiation viral would be more effective for alpha damage, or even radiation cold. So you would do like a straight up alpha damage build against this with some crit. You wouldn't even worry about the statuses. In which case you would still not be modding for blast. Tusk Thumper again. Tusk Thumper again. Okay, mechs. Alloy armor. Radiation. You would still do if you were trying to pop them and max your damage. Radiation cold if you were trying to go 3 element mods. But I would also recommend just going maybe like a corrosive build to reduce their armor a little bit. But shredding these guys can be pretty difficult. If you fought them, you know about like the shield and everything. Um, but radiation is what it gets a damage bonus against. This can help a tremendous amount. If you're new to killing these, you would go radiation cold to get, if you're having trouble hitting the back spot or knocking the arms off. And that'll give you a ton of bang for your buck if you're having trouble hitting it. So when you do graze the weak spot, your damage counts more. But once you figure out how to kill these and you get in the knack of it, again, you still wouldn't mod for blast. You would go radiation. This is probably the most relevant one to current content, and I am actually going to fight one of these in a couple of minutes to show you how to use blast. Void Angels are machinery. They have alloy armor. The alloy armor is 350, so it is very strippable. And how you would mod against this if you really wanted to mod specifically to kill this enemy, especially if you're like slightly lower level or like you just killed or you just did the new war, and you need a way to like kill this more easily. Again, radiation cold and just alpha damaging the bastard would be way better. But say you don't have 5-6 forma in a weapon and you still want to kill it pretty fast, this would be a way to do it somewhat on the cheap. So that's, and let's see, Wolf of Saturn 6, same thing. Alloy machinery, really weak. The alloy armor is very strippable, so you would strip the armor and then use blast if you wanted to. Or you could run like an ability strip and do like 99%, right? And then mod for radiation cold to get a bigger damage boost. Because, let's see, radiation cold, I guess technically in this situation, if you were to run like a 99% strip and then do blast electric, maybe it would come out a little bit ahead. But if you were doing blast electric, you would want to completely strip him. So that's sort of how you have to mod for this if you're doing a melee with blast. You can do blast electric, so at least you have one scaling dot, so you will get slightly scaling damage. And to show this off, I am actually going to use the OMA. Got a couple forma in it. I should have a build on here already. Nope. Okay, we'll remove, strip. Alright, handy dandy Sovereign Outcast, Condition Overload, Blood Rush, Reach. We are going to be doing a full strip, so Shattering Impact. Let's go. Oh, we need crit. Let's see what else. We're not going to worry about weeping too much because we're not looking to apply status effects. Let's get blast on here. If I can spell it right. Alright, let's do... Alright, okay, blast. And let's think about combo. Quickening, and we'll run strike on this. And on this, we will swap out for dexterity, just to make this as easy as possible. So we got 12 seconds of combo duration. This is going to help us keep our combo up. And it's a blast build with pure strip. So it will get rid of the armor as fast as possible so we can get to the juicy insides. Does this sound like a lot of work? Normally, yeah, kind of, because you have to hit an enemy a bunch of times. where you would just try to like alpha damage them, and considering how weak a lot of enemies are, they're extremely one-shottable until you get to higher level. So this wouldn't even start to pay dividends until completely stripping the enemies becomes relevant. You know what I mean? So let's check what our primer is. Oh, I've got garbage on here. Whatever, that's fine. It's corrosive. Actually, let's swap to viral. Jolt. Okay, so we have our build. And we're gonna go fight a Void Angel real quick. It'll be quick, I promise. Check the build again. Take our handy dandy Panzer so it just doesn't die. No, I want relay. Alright, navigation. We are in regular origin system. We are gonna in solo. We are gonna do a perimeter run.
Greedy, plundering, this bastards come aboard without permission. Mow them down without a second thought.
And all we're gonna do is we're gonna ignore everything. We are gonna look for the Void Angel, and we're gonna murder it in cold blood.
Don't slow down now. Body count can go way higher.
Oh my god, guys, come on. Alright, let's see, not there. Alright, I'm not blind. Okay, keep going. Alright, found it. Let me clear these guys out. You know what I just realized? I forgot. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so we're gonna wake this dude up. And we are gonna instantly start swinging. To build combo count. Now notice how my damage increases slowly, because the lower his armor gets, and the less armor he has, the stronger blast gets to be. So the less armor reduction that exists, the more the health matters. Oop. Alright, easy enough. So we're gonna keep whacking. Okay, see the damage boost? Probably shouldn't have gone the combo counter build. Just went flat damage. Alright, easy enough. So now that its armor is completely stripped, you can see it getting bopped, right? So the fact is the lower an enemy's armor is, the more it benefits, more blast benefits from its bonuses. But you have to deal with the armor or the defensive characteristics. Now, in this, you really don't have to worry about the shields because there's no shields before it tries to like go back into its little area to recover, right? Oh, that's cool. That's one of those I'm never going to use at Arcanes. I'm sure there's something abusable about it. I'll figure it out. So let's go back to the simulacrum. So the issue is that I can't really summon in any machine-based health enemies without it being like infested or something, right? And against infested, you would go viral or gas, right? So like viral heat or viral electric would even be really good against the infested, right? So the way you would use blast, now that we see where the damage bonus gets applied, and that's the big issue with it, is you have to get to the health pool, right? You have to deal with the enemy scaling armor, so you would have to be constantly armor stripping. And Shattering Impact helps a little bit with it. It definitely takes them down to 0 armor, right? But if an enemy has like 1,000 base armor, like the Exogrustags, or however you pronounce that, that's going to be a lot of stripping. So the element is definitely, I would say, on its best case modding, it is just if it's a passive that exists on there. So as like corrosive stacks are getting randomly put on, this gets stronger as the enemy's armor goes down, and the health bonus starts to take over. So it's, even though it's generally a +2 -2, you can strip armor and get to the +2. So it's not the end of the world, but you would have I would have to turn this into like a corrosive Brahma or something, you know. So, in terms of modding for blast, I would recommend against it. Like corrosive heat is way more effective, because one of the other problems with blast is literally the modding for it. So corrosive, or for blast, it's heat cold, right? So the other two singular elements on it would be toxin and electric, right? And electric only applies CC, that Tesla coil or whatever it's called, and toxin is a straight dot. Now it's pretty good at bypassing shields, but it doesn't do shit against proto shields, right? But neither one of those enemies are like the interaction with corrosive heat, where the corrosive strip benefits heat, and heat is an infinitely stacking dot that also has armor shred, that in then uh, increases your alpha damage from your modding of corrosive. There's no interaction that Blast has where it does that. And that's part of the problem with Blast, why it is essentially a much weaker element. But that being said, as something that just exists on the weapon, I mean, when are you ever going to be like, oh, I want the enemies to be more accurate? Like, if there was something that was the opposite of Blast, where it was like, make the enemies more accurate, would you ever equip that? No, I want them to be less accurate. Because essentially, inaccuracy is like an extra layer of tank. So it's helpful, but I would never ever hardcore mod for this. Because even over the +3 bonus to machine, if there's no armor, viral would give almost the same bonus. And I could mod for something else. And it would be more relevant elsewhere in the level or the survival. So it's just one of those things. But in terms of like, I think the specific question was regarding. Oh, hold on. There we go. Okay, so for making this extend as long as possible, if you really want this to be as generous as possible on primaries, I don't know why you would do this, but this is how you do this regardless. On primaries, the duration mod is significantly stronger than all the other duration mods. Like everything else is like +30, right? Like this status duration +30%. The duration mod, if you are doing a dot build, on primaries, is just significantly better. Now, normally you don't care about duration, but it essentially doubles your damage for a dot. The only element that you would particularly want to use this on would be maybe a radiation corrosive combo, right? So radiation lasts for like damn near a half a minute, and it would be like a Saren camp build where you're trying to burn them down with dots and you just want them to distract themselves. So you would throw radiation out, let the spores kill them. You would constantly have your spores going, right? And the double stack of them doing more damage to each other plus the armor shred from the corrosive stacks from Saren. I could see this having some value because you're trying to get the enemy to do damage to itself, right? I could see that happening here, and also with running a duration build. What's that helmet mod? Or that helmet build? Expedited Suffering. This affects it. Essentially acts as a 2x multiplier. So if you're doing a hardcore like heat inherit build or something, or say slash damage, and you've got like a ridiculous ribbon that saves you mod slots, there would definitely be an argument for maybe adding this, considering this stacks with Ash's passive. That being said, I would say mod for something else, for maybe more crit damage, something that benefits the slash directly. But if you're in a situation where you don't have like modding, the ability to mod due to like not having the mods or something, this is definitely an option to get the expedited suffering up, because this will help. It's essentially going to double the damage. So, man, it's food for thought. But Blast, let me see if I can show you the effect. It's so silly. Alright, you see the little sparks? That's what it is. Like, look at the, like, it's like a little sparkler. Sparkler Exo. 10 times sparkler stack. So let's see it go down. Yeah. 4. And I'm out of ammo. Whatever. But there you go. That's the effect. That's the status. It never, even if you stack... Oh, also, in terms of, like, maxing inaccuracy, there is technically a mod... Or not technically. There is a mod for Corpus. An aura mod that gives inaccuracy. But they don't stack well enough to bring you to 100%. So you will never reach 100% inaccuracy. Because it's all multiplicative now instead of additive. I think in the past you were able to, but I've never run this build. The trying to make them perfectly inaccurate, like completely inaccurate. But it's definitely an additional layer of tank. Like if you're doing a shield gate build, just to talk on it for a second, inaccuracy is definitely valuable. Like it is a thing. It's basically an additional layer of tank that, because obviously if you're taking less damage and you're less likely to die. And if the enemy can't hit you, and specifically if you're moving a lot, it makes it harder for the enemy to hit you. And at higher levels, the enemy is a little bit more accurate. Like there's a dummy system at super low levels for like new people, like people who are new to Warframe, where the enemy is like ultra inaccurate. Like they'll miss. But that goes away later in the star chart, so nobody probably even noticed it. And it goes away fairly early, and especially if the enemy scales. So like even if you're doing like Koba on Earth, the inaccuracy will exist, but then it'll go away as the enemy levels, right? As the rounds go up. So if you're doing like a health tank, like, or a shield tank, where it's not a shield gate tank. So say like Saren, or not Saren, that would be a shield gate tank. Say Inaros or Hildren. There might be a little bit more value in having Blast on it, but it would be your weapon choice to make sure it has Blast on it. You would never mod for it. Because even though there's a couple enemies that are weak to Blast, they're so rare. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, trying to min-max for one specific enemy. And Blast never gets you down to 100% inaccuracy. If Blast could get down to 100% inaccuracy, it would immediately go to a god tier element. But it's only 75, and eventually as the enemies get stronger, maybe you haven't done Steel Path yet, but eventually the enemies will just start doing damage to you. Even if it's they miss 99 shots out of 100, eventually it just gets to the point where the single shot will take up all of your shields. And if you don't shield gate or recover your shields, the next shot that you take will straight up one-shot you. So it's in kind of a weird spot, but it's a welcome extra element on any weapon. But you wouldn't go out of your way to mod it. You would go and mod for what particularly their weaknesses on whatever they're scaling defense. So either mod to deal with whatever their defense is, or mod to bypass their defense entirely. So you would use Toxin against Corpus or Slash against Grineer. But you would never mod specifically for Blast. But I think that's as much as needs to be said. So I showed how to actually mod for it, to actually boost its damage as much as possible. If you want to run Blast Electric, baby, by all means, go ahead. Like, enjoy the game. Don't let anybody tell you anything. But it's just, the fact is that running a corrosive build or building for the one shot through armor, if they have alloy armor, is just going to yield better results. So it's just, it is what it is. It's how Warframe calculates the damage reduction. Now, if you are getting in the habit of stripping armor, and you want to, like, as like practice or getting more familiar with armor stripping, then you can go blast for a little bit as sort of a crutch. By all means, it wouldn't be optimal, because a couple stacks of viral and say like heat on a slash weapon, just the condition overload, getting the extra procs is just going to boost your damage higher. But if you want to get in the habit of it, of learning how to strip and just get the alpha damage, the raw damage from the boost, bro, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Godspeed, right? But this is how you mod for blast. This is how it works. The status effect kind of is what it is. You've probably been running with the status effect a lot, and the status effect look to it, man, you're never gonna see this. If it's like Eximus enemies, right? Like an Arson Eximus, oh, and you're gonna see sparks. You're never gonna see this. It's cool, but that's what it looks like. But anyway, I think I've talked enough on this. At least it's shorter than my other video. Have a blessed day.